I don't believe in this false, like, no one can truly love you until you love yourself. I think it's like, that's not true at all. I learned to love myself because of how deeply my wife loved me, and then how deeply I felt love from things greater than me. So the simplest advice I can give is listen to the body with its basic cues, and then it will start trusting you. You've got to build a relationship because it is always speaking to you. I promise you, I promise everybody listening. The body is always speaking to you, and it's not particularly cryptic. I think if you're always seeking joy or seeking pleasure or seeking happiness, then you're already losing, right? Because you're in the pursuit of something. And by that, you're stating that you don't have it.
Nice to have you here on this podcast, Ash. It's amazing. I'm very excited.
Yeah, pleasure to be here.
In this episode with you. For someone that doesn't know you, how would you describe yourself?
Ooh, good question. I would say that I am predominantly a somatic and shamanic bodyworker, and men's coach in the regards to I deliver and teach a modality of hands-on bodywork that works very systematically with not just the physical body, but also the emotional and somatic processes of the body, and also the shamanic experiences that the body is capable of, meaning the altered states that we may experience from various modalities. And this is something that I practice and teach. And I say men's work as I also sort of teach and mentor men in this sort of inner landscape and discovery of self in a regard. So I would say that that would be my best attempt at describing sort of what it is that I do.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And is this something you did your whole life? Or what was your journey behind all of this?
Oh, okay. This is something that I have been doing for more than 15 years now. Of course, it has had evolution and progression across the course of that time. The initial course into it was quite a sharp one. I actually left school to pursue finance. But what I found was at the time that I was pursuing finance, I was in an experience of this loop of very high stress, very low self-regard, and low self-responsibility in a lot of ways as well. And the consequence of all those things was a burnout at a very young age. And one of the things that was getting me through a lot of the negativity of my experience was training. And I used that moment as a sharp turn into that world instead. So my initiation into what I do now was actually to become a personal trainer. And this happened to be the first time in my life that I realized that it wasn't that I wasn't intelligent per se. It was that academics hadn't applied me in the way that I accessed knowledge before. And when I started to learn fully about the body, I went from this like failing grades through most of my high school to 100% score on anatomy, on a physiology. And my tutors at the time really pushed me in the direction of like, Ash, go and study more about the body. This is for you. And it then just kind of snowballed from there. And then the sort of the personal history that runs alongside it it's very much like my my personal struggles were very much in the mental health space. So even when I came in to approach physical fitness and body massage, from the very beginning, I was always looking at it through a lens of like, but how do I also translate this to improve somebody's mental well-being? Before I even had the language of somatics, or before I had the language of nervous system or emotional regulation. So there was always an intention there before I fully knew what that needed to be. And then that naturally evolved and opened so much over the past 15 years.
That sounds very interesting. And just like you found your way, with a clear direction to working with the body, with the nervous system. And just like you've had very early this spark or the intention of there is something maybe that's interesting, and then it sounds like you've got there more and more.
Yeah, definitely. It's I think for a long time, in a few different ways, it didn't serve me, but I knew it was always going to pay off. I knew it was always the right thing. that initial spark, that initial pull towards like, I think it's this.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is where I need to be going, was so true. And that feeling has steered me in my life so much. And when I was young, from the conditionings that we receive as we do, I say we, maybe not everyone, I certainly, there can be labels put on it that like selfish or unfocused, or just want to do just want to be happy. And, I had a narrative even at one point that like I would rather be happy than wealthy, which gave me a whole host of money problems that we can. But I really did have this really deeply ingrained piece of me that was like, you really need to go after what you desire, like what you want. And by aligning with that allowed me that first step. And had I have set out to become a somatic therapist, I never would have made it through entry level.
Mm-hmm.
But by going, I'm stressed out of my mind, I'm suicidal, I'm in a complete burnout, I'm not even 18. The only thing holding my mental health together in some sort of way is my physical training. How do I change that into what I do for a living? How do I help others with how I feel I'm being helped? That was pivotal. And then being able to make that choice at each of these moments, a tutor going, Ash, anatomy and physiology is your thing. Look how well you do. Have you thought about this? And that body feeling of like, it's either a yes or a no. And listening to those yeses, I'm very fortunate in the fact that I've fine-tuned the ability to listen to that over 15 years. I'm very fortunate that I found that early. I'm even fortunate that I found it from such a place of darkness, and I would say that perhaps even being shrouded in so much darkness was what made it so obvious when some light came through. But then it just made me so much more capable of focusing on when light shines through.
Well, thank you for sharing and your openness to share all this. If someone hears this and asks himself, okay, how can I find this spark, or what can help me just hearing my body? What would you say could help to hear ourselves? Because I think hearing it is the first step for just every change. If we don't hear it, we can't change it.
I agree so much. And I think this can be one of the problems with modern humans and with modern society. especially in a world so full of distraction and stimulation. I really believe in bringing people back down to the foundations, bringing people back down into cues of hunger, tiredness, the need to urinate, like the most simple things that every single day at least somebody will overlook. I'm too busy to eat this meal. And we start to ignore the hunger pangs. You know, it's like, I'm tired, but I'll scroll. I'm, you know, I need a wee, but I'm in a good conversation. So you like just jiggles for the next 45 minutes until you go and remove yourself. I feel like because we have the ability to override an instant gratification or an ability to meet a need immediately, we do that with the basic needs of humans, and we tend to ignore it when it comes to like dopamine hit.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a lot of people don't know when they're hungry, don't know when they're tired, don't know, like they'll ignore these cues, not on purpose, but sometimes on purpose. Sometimes we like practice things that put us in a stress state that block those cues. But we almost find those easier to overlook than when the phone goes bing and something in your brain goes, I just need to, what was that? Should I check it? Yeah, so the simplest advice I can give is listen to the body with its basic cues, and then it will start trusting you. You've got to build a relationship because it is always speaking to you. I promise everybody listening. The body is always speaking to you, and it's not particularly cryptic. But if we tune it out and we tune it out and we tune it out, then it realizes we will only listen when it gives us something really loud and really obvious, and that is usually pain, burnout, some sort of mental disorder or physical disorder. It'll be something that stops you. It's going, hey, I don't like that, hey, I don't like that, hey, I don't like that, and then it's like, stop. It puts a boundary up, and then you're like, oh, suddenly I can't do this thing. I wonder if maybe we'd listened first. So I think it's about building the relationship. It's about listening to the needs of the body, acting on them, so the body can feel heard. And when it feels heard, it will give you more information. You know, if I didn't listen to your questions, I just kind of kept ignoring you, you'd stop eventually, unless something was really important. So I think that's the best in. Build that trust and that safety, that relationship with the body through the basic needs first, by listening to anything and everything it has to tell you, and then it will get more detailed. And to this point, when we use things like meditation, where we can get a really profound sense of inner connection, also in embodiment practices or body work or breath work or these other things, we can get such detailed and specific and incredible insights through the body of emotion or of story or sensation, you know, or I'll receive things from specific organs that they have a particular need for a vitamin or a herb or a plant or a food, when I'm not consuming enough of it because I'm investing the time into building that relationship with my body. So we're on good communication terms. We've got our own language. When you've got a best friend, you tend to connect to their mannerisms and their way of speaking. And you know, when you're really intimate with someone, you can exchange a glance and they know that glance. And we've said everything we need to say. The same thing happens here. It's just, we don't always spend a lot of time here in the body. And that disconnect is what makes it hard.
Why do you think are we like this, so strongly disconnected often?
I think all the difficult things happen in the body as well. I think maybe there's a lot of things. If you sign up for hearing all the stuff that the body wants to tell you, it's not all good stuff. Usually it does highlight where we're not serving ourselves. It's also easier not to listen. It's easier in a convenience-based lifestyle, in an instant gratification-based lifestyle, to be more disconnected from the body. You know, even from a neurotransmitter perspective, I know dopamine can be quite a buzzword, but it's like dopamine should come with a cocktail of other neurotransmitters that tend to be the result of effort. And now we have so many ways where we can like get it immediately with zero effort. And effort tends to be very much in the body. Like that's where we're doing all the hard work and the stuff. And it's where all of our emotion really lies and sits as well. And it's like, I believe it's a spectrum, but it's an entangled spectrum where it's only really truly the depths at which you can go into your experience that open the peaks of which you can go into your experience. And I believe there's often a lot of fear around the depths, you know, like being like, oh yeah, I absolutely want to feel more pleasure and sensation and joy and delight and ecstasy and all of these things. It's like, okay, you're also going to experience more grief and more sorrows and more sadness and more, like you'll experience it to a deeper, more felt sense. Doesn't mean it's going to be present all the time, but it needs to be there. You need to exist. The same, I've personally just been very ill for a period of days, which has been a very intense and painful experience that I have also in a lot of ways found very beautiful and very humbling and very enlightening. In having 4 days with no sleep and high fevers, it's been a very altered state, but I've had to be I could have checked out, which is in previous years maybe how I would deal with being ill. Let's dissociate, let's get out of this body because this is not a great place to be. And this time I was like, what happens if I'm here though? And I was in it. And I think in every moment of acceptance of the state, there's so much more for you there. And there was so much insight and knowledge and sensation, and there were moments of joy or weird ecstasy and things like this, and these depths and throes of pain and discomfort. Because I think if you're always seeking joy or seeking pleasure or seeking happiness, then you're already losing, right? Because you're in the pursuit of something. And by that, you're stating that you don't have it.
Yeah, quite an interesting point.
Right? Whereas if what I set as my desire is acceptance, and then I can be with everything within that realm. So pain, okay, well, I can accept that then. Grief, I can accept that. Discomfort, I can accept that. And it's like, well, then I'm getting everything that I want because my desire is simply acceptance. So it's, yeah, that's...
And there's a lot in this point.
Yeah. Yeah, I opened a bigger can than I expected to with that.
And for me, there was a picture like in a friendship. It's about accepting a bigger range, not only the joy, just joy, pleasure, but fear also, and all the, maybe we say, darker parts. And I think in relationship to ourselves and our bodies, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And we can't find one thing without the other thing. So if we would like to have more joy, more freedom, more safety in ourselves, I think we will find there just all the other emotions too.
Yeah.
And it's a whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and because they're absolutely all there. Choosing not to look at or not to feel some of them doesn't mean they're not there. And if they're there, then they do have an effect. And so they're already having an effect or an influence on our life. So to me, I would rather bring everything I can into my field of awareness because I can change the things in that field.
That's very interesting, I think. We only can change what we have in the field or what we are seeing in the field. Because I said, it's not there because we don't look at it. It's there too.
Yeah.
But we can't change it if you're not looking at it.
Yeah.
That's very big, I think. And just looking on all its parts, just maybe with a lot of fear, what would you say can help us to accept all of these different things and ourselves? What helps you accepting these things?
I mean, this has been a big journey of me having this sense of self-compassion and self-love. These have been two incredibly important proponents of my journey and experience of seeing and accepting myself. And I think from an easiest access place as well, there is a need to create safety almost any time that we experience a fear or an anxiety or a worry. You know, it's like, because if we're already experiencing fear, we're not feeling safe. We feel uncertainty. So the thing that would serve us the most is to get into a state where we feel safety and revisit and try again. Can I find a way to feel safety and revisit the concept, the thought of this emotion, of this part of me? You know, we can do exercises where we relate it to how would I see that emotion, behavior, aspect of personality or of self or of identity in someone whom I already love. You know, and ultimately kind of work towards the lens of having self-compassion, having self-love. And I do believe that often takes time to really cultivate. And it takes time spending time with yourself, you know? And I think sometimes it even takes reference material. Sometimes being loved by people is a really, really great example of like, okay, I'm loved and can be loved. And if I'm not that great at giving that to me, I don't believe in this false, like, no one can truly love you until you love yourself. I think it's like, that's not true at all. I learned to love myself because of how deeply my wife loved me. And then how deeply I felt love from things greater than me. And then by how unconditionally I feel love towards and from my son. These reference points became incredibly helpful about learning, this is what that feels like. That thing I would like to give to me is more palpable now. I can work on that. I can move towards that. And then compassion is really that aspect that it's all okay. You're not doing anything wrong. Like, everything's all right. Like, there aren't even really good parts and bad parts. It's like it's all okay. And the shadows or the aspects of ourselves that really we are scared of or don't want to look at shrink so much in their potency when put under the light. And especially when that light is warm and loving. So when we're like, okay, I love you, come out, let's have a look at you. They're kind of a bit like, oh yeah, I'm not actually really that jealous, or I'm not actually really that aggressive, or I'm not actually really that sad. It's like, I do embody that, I am a representative of that for you. But when I am in the dark and behind the scenes and in this, like, I get to play the monster. So, yeah, this journey towards self-compassion and self-love and your capacity to just sort of grow and experience and exchange love between you and other humans. Friends, brothers, loved ones, family, relationships. Children are awesome for this. Don't just have kids to heal some self-love stuff, but I think this is the sort of the path in to be able to let go of those fears or those hesitations towards those parts of ourself. And then, as we said, safety. Find and cultivate safety consistently is the biggest gift you can give to yourself.
I think the point of safety is definitely the most important. And just doing the things slowly, not too fast. Just especially if there's a lot of things I've not felt for a long time, then just doing it with someone, with safety, and slowly, because otherwise it's maybe too much.
Yeah.
And what would you recommend how to build safety in ourselves? Just one thing was the part of relationship, feeling loved in the warm light. What would you recommend? What can we do for ourselves to be more in this acceptance and building more of this safety in our nervous system, maybe in the body? What can you recommend?
So, yeah, I think there are two different things really. When we're working with the body, safety is really easy and in some ways to input through sensory information. A lot of it is about really presencing us in the body and offering to ourselves things that we like or enjoy, or that can give us something that maybe we feel we're lacking in that moment, So it could be something as simple as using sensory touch on yourself when you're having a particular thought or fear. The act of washing your hands very slowly, running your hands through your hair or over your face, over your arms. If I remember rightly, this is a technique called havening. I like to suggest people do things like find a firm object, something that's not going to move. You can kind of press into it a little bit and you can borrow the stability. Like, I'm going to borrow this sense of stability, of firmness, of like not going to move. Like, I'm going to borrow this. It can also be, there's all these various applied neurology hacks. You can run your tongue along your gums in an anti-clockwise motion a few times, and that will trigger a response in vagal tone that will calm your nervous system. There's some hacks and some little things you can do, but it's going to be individually about just like finding ground and more presence in your body is like where you feel safe. We tend to find, like, from an energy perspective, like the root of the body, so lower in the spine, is where we find safety, grounding, these things. The feet are a great place. The legs are a great place as well. The higher up we feel we are in our body, the more disconnected, also the less safe or more stressed we're going to perceive ourselves to be. People that have very visual stimulus, it can help to just picture. If you picture the kind of outline or shell of your body, and you can start coloring it in, and you're like, where's all my energy right now? And if you look like a balloon, once you color it in, it's all up in the head. You know, maybe it zigzags down the shoulders a little bit, and you're like, oh, is that why I'm like this? It's like, how about we try and move that all down? If we start to color in the whole body. So I like to use whatever the easiest sense to kind of activate for you would be. My suggestion would be an in through that, and to use that to get you more into your body. And the more you go into your body, there are exceptions to this, but for people without severe trauma in the body, more into the body is going to signal more safety usually. And then we can move from that place much more regulated than we're going to move from a very mind or detached space.
And I think it's quite important to say with trauma, I feel it's maybe different, just the body part. And we don't find that in the first way, safety or something like that. Just maybe quite a different things. And there exactly is just therapy and something like that, quite important to get a safe experience in the body.
Yeah.
And just not doing it quite alone, too much working with the body.
Yeah, exactly. Even more so on the points that you made about doing it with someone, doing it slowly. Like, these points are really important, and even more so when they're like whatever the severity of the experience or the history, be it trauma, the more important that is. I mean, one thing that having another person there does for us is give us empathy as a lens, which is a much easier space to heal in than whatever stories we've created about it, because we tend to be full of a lot of our own judgment narratives and stories about the stories. Having neutrality or empathy there is great. And yeah, pumping the brakes and realizing that we can actually go really slowly into these things is so good. And yeah, and those two things apply even more so when there is more extreme cases or deeper trauma, or when that trauma is more in the body. Yeah.
Thank you. There's a lot inside of it.
Yeah.
What would you say? Is it possible to live very authentic if we don't see all these parts and see what they would like to tell us, and just or is it possible to be fully alive without seeing all these different things?
In a way, I would say yes. And in another, I would say no. So what I would say is, there will be signs that there are other parts, that there are pieces that you're not looking at, right? That there's not the whole picture. I think if you know of and don't give that in your authenticity, then I feel that is withholding, which is not authentic. I think I don't judge people for not knowing all these aspects of themselves. So at any given point in my journey, I believe that I have, or at least in the past 7 years, 8 years, I can confidently say, I've always given all of me, but that was through my lens. So I would take stock, yep, this is all of me, and I give that. And at a certain point, other bits are like, hey, I'm here. I'd be like, there's more to me than I thought there was. Okay. So you go deeper and you find more, and now you show up more authentically. And that journey kind of continues. Do I believe that I am now everything that I will be, or that I have found all parts of me ready to express? No. And the little things that tend to highlight the way for us are usually our triggers. That's the easiest way. You want to know if all of you is like out to play yet? Do you have any triggers? And a trigger is so much more simple than maybe what we sometimes expect it to be. If something somebody does, says, or is makes you feel anything, positive or negative, there's a trigger there. And it's like, so guess what? There's more of you. There's always a lot more of you than. And I think if you are consciously making the effort to create space for these parts of you to come forwards and to learn to meet them with patience and empathy and compassion, then I believe you're living very authentically, because you're bringing everything you have the capacity to the table, you know? And maybe that is slightly different with different people as well, because the safety we feel in somebody's presence will dictate to some degree the level of authenticity we can bring. Because if part of our authenticity is vulnerabilities, and somebody does not feel safe to us, I'm not bringing that. Definitely not bringing that. So, but when we have really quality relationships, really quality friendships and connections, then we have this beautiful thing where it's like, do we feel safe to each other? Yes. Can I bring my vulnerabilities here? Yes. Can I also hold the other person's vulnerabilities? Yes. It's like, oh, great. We can play on all fields here, all games, all of me can come out. Great. Then I will show up as all of me. And it's like, so, yeah, I think I don't judge those who aren't through lack of finding all of those parts yet. But I think that is part of the unraveling quest. And then as long as we are aligning with who we're meeting and we're finding safety and connection, then I think that's where, like, bringing what we know so far, that's authenticity.
Thank you. And yeah, I think just showing up with all these different parts of ourselves needs some safety in contact to ourselves and in contact to the other person. Because if there's fear in our relationship, for example, I will not show up with my vulnerabilities.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting point for looking inside our relationships. Am I feeling absolutely safe here? And can I show up here with everything? Or can I show up only with just maybe the part entrepreneur? And I think that's quite an interesting point.
It is interesting. And I think there are appropriate times as well where we really let a part play a primary role. There are going to be places where the entrepreneur having the steering wheel, running the show for a while, not in absence of the other parts, but in a hierarchy, is going to be super important, right? That the environments where that would be important isn't the environments where you bring in the more vulnerable aspects to, you know, it's like, Yeah. It's where we still want flares of personality, because these actually make the beautiful touches on the uniquities we bring to any role, instead of just being an archetype.
Yeah.
And just being like a sales guy, an entrepreneur, a meditator. It's easy to fit an archetype because you can go, right, forget everything that's individual and personal about me. Let's be this thing. But like to go, this is my primary aspect of self that needs to be present right now. And it's kind of all the other bits are just trickling in a little bit to just kind of show some support. I think that's really cool. And I think that's actually where we can see where we're really capable of having success in so many different fields in our life, because we can be like, oh, I can put a key player up front and be supported by the rest of who I am. And everybody gets to see my individuality and authenticity, but they also get to see that I stand out very strongly as this thing too. And like when we have authenticity, it's super cool how we can mix up all of those aspects of ourselves, and we can make all these different cocktails of like how I can authentically portray myself as X. It's very different from like playing the part of. Probably looks the same from the outside, but it has a very different feeling.
And I think the feelings, one is very safe. That's where that is really authentic. And the other thing where it's like, I'm playing some new role. Maybe that's it. There's fear of being seen in this role, and I think the other part is the sort of safety, because I'm getting seen with what I'm really am.
Yeah.
And that's quite a difference.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice, right? It's a very different way to be received.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's big.
I have a feeling these conversations are going to be.
Yeah. I think every conversation between us has this.
Agreed.
But that's what I like.
Yeah.
About these conversations and being in touch with you. Just that everything is okay.
Yeah.
And talking together and have the feeling of safety in this contact, and had amazing experiences with you that changed my life. And I'm very thankful for these experiences and that you've come here for this podcast. Do you have something on your mind what you say, I will bring this inside the moment, inside the podcast? Is there something else?
Am I having any insights at the moment? I'll speak to what I'm working through currently in my life. Because maybe somebody somewhere will find it relatable or useful.
Definitely.
I think I am in a stage of my life right now where what I am working on is the journey towards a sense of radical self-responsibility that I hadn't in my life previously been fully ready for. And I haven't fully grasped these steps yet, because I feel like there are 4 and I think I'm maybe aware of 3. But there's this experience of life where I believe a lot of people, certainly some of the people I speak to from perhaps my old life or certain family where they experience life as happening to them. Right? Which has no sense of responsibility. Life happens to me. Therefore, all bad things, not my problem. Therefore, all good things. Thank you, great mystery. How do I replicate that? Who knows? It happened to me. I believe there's then a stage that changes from that, which is things happen for me. You reach a stage of your life experience where you start to realize that the good and the bad, everything is an opportunity or a lesson. Everything expands you, leads you deeper into growth. Therefore, everything happens for me. And there's a step in between this one and the next one that I'm going to speak to that I don't know yet, but it's where I am, and it's why I can't see it, because I'm standing in this place right now. But the step I'm moving towards is I chose this. It didn't happen to me or for me. I chose this. And to hold that so honestly about everything that happens in your life is a really scary concept and a really powerful one. And I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of experiences in my life where I wanted something to happen and it happened. And I was like, oh, isn't that nice? I've also had a lot of experiences in my life where I needed something to happen. And it happened. And I was like, that sucked, but I know that needed to happen. And I am moving more into, I chose that. I chose that. I made each of those things that have occurred in my life were choices. And I'm moving into this because in this moment, where I am in my family unit, my wife is pregnant. And we are moving towards, or currently in the decision, open to changes as we are to anything in our life, but currently in the decision to free birth, which means we are going unassisted, which means that we take on all the responsibility for everything, including if something goes wrong, including if we lose a child, including all of the worst case options, where usually if you're in a medicalized or westernized system, at least you can outsource, blame, or believe that everybody did their best. Everybody did everything that they could to X, Y, and Z. But I'm really leaning into the fact that I believe that we really are capable of co-creating our own reality. And when we fully take responsibility for what it is we're experiencing in our life and we have it as choice, that there's just so much like strength and sovereignty and independence in that. It's just that nothing can really pull on that. So I don't know exactly what it is I have to share from that other than the transmission of almost what I've spoken to. Perhaps just the awareness of where we are in these cycles sometimes of if somebody finds that life is happening to them, then in all likelihood that is some form of victim mindset. And when we find that life is happening for us, that is an awesome step in the right direction. And absolutely it is. And that also we can become even more conscious than that. And we can step into some responsibility for the things that occur in our life. And we can realize that more than what we often give credit to is our choice. And accepting that even the things we didn't want, that's the hard part. But that by moving in that direction, we really move away from this state of victim and just watch how those dynamics in your life crumple and lose their power. Because if you step out of victimhood consciousness, it can't be upheld by the other people very well. There's always that triangle, this triangle of like the hero, the victim, and the aggressor.
Yeah.
Like you step out and the triangle doesn't hold up very well. And it's like, so it's not happening to you. Yeah, in a way it's happening for you because it's your choice. And I'll circle back in when I figure out whatever step 3 that I'm in right now is as I start to move fully into step 4. But I think that's something that's alive for me, that I feel someone somewhere will find some value in that, I'm sure.
Thanks for sharing this. And this was a lot. This episode, and very deep. Thank you so much for your openness. Yeah, it was amazing and a pleasure to have you here. And maybe there will be more episodes.
Yeah, I hope so.
If someone heard the podcast and says, that sounds very interesting, I would like to work with you, where can they find you? And it's an interesting question because we're talking English together.
Yeah.
And where are you located in this world?
In this world. Right now in this world, I'm living in Bali. I have an intention to stay here for an extended period of time, at least into next spring. There may be some Europe time in my chapters, maybe next spring or summer, but Bali is home for me and my family. I am very recently back on Instagram after almost a 1-year hiatus. You can find me at @ash_Parkhouse. And that's the only real place I'm to be found right now as I start to maybe presence myself a bit more socially, then I'll share. But that's come find me in Bali or just ask for Ash. A lot of people know where to point you. And, find me on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.